Guys, as we head into fantasy football week 10, the time to make moves, to get ready for playoffs, to make it in playoffs. The time is now. The moves we make now, the trades we make now are more important than any trades we will make all year. And we got to get these moves right. So let's get into it. The number one player to buy. We're going to talk about players to buy first, then those to sell, potentially sell, maybe for them, right? Maybe for some other players, but the number one player to buy, regardless of your record, whatever record you have, wherever you are in the standings, Quinshon Judkins is the number one player. The number one player to buy. He's a perfect buy right now. Let's start with the injury. Okay, he left week 8, 33% of snaps with this AC shoulder injury. I'm not a doctor. According to doctors, both on Twitter, both on TikTok, my guy Morse, okay, it's good. The average missed time is 7 to 11 days. We have the bye week. He's practicing Monday. I'm recording this Tuesday. We'll get the official injury reports tomorrow, Wednesday, around the time this video comes out, okay? But it's looking like he's going to play. We go over to the Fantasy Pros strength of schedule tool. Shout out Fantasy Pros. This tool is amazing, okay? He is tied among running backs for the best schedule rest of season. 5 stars. Only other running backs with that type of schedule, Trevion Henderson and Stevenson, Alvin Kamara and Devin Neal, and then, yes, Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, and whoever else, okay? Which means Quinshon Judkins has the best, tied for the best schedule rest of season. We look at the schedule. Week 10 at the Jets. So that is this week. They literally just traded every single player they have on defense that was capable of making a play. Baltimore, arguably the worst rush defense, that exists. Vegas. Actually, I'll go back. Cincinnati is the worst, but there it is. Week 18 for those of you who play week 18. You have Vegas, which is a pass funnel defense. That's okay because they're not that good. Just give up 31 points or whatever to the Jaguars. San Fran has been looking pretty loosey-goosey as of late. Tennessee, easy. Chicago, easy. Buffalo, easy. Pittsburgh, a little more difficult, but maybe one matchup on there that's like not amazing. Okay? We head over to RotoViz and their NFL player statistical summary. Okay, RotoViz is the GOAT for this type of stuff. And we look at expected points. So expected points kind of sounds like it's in the future. It's like, oh, we're expecting this player to, score this much. No. What this is RotoViz takes all of the data, the types of runs, the types of targets, where they are on the field, goal line, middle of the field, whatever. Did the player capitalize on those opportunities or not, right? And it gives us expected points based on the utilization. This is how much they should have scored. When we look at the expected points, weeks 3 through 7, okay, which means that is the only time we've seen Judkins as the starter, fully healthy. There's a 5-game sample size. That is enough for sure, all right? He ranks as the 10th best running back in expected points per game. McCaffrey all the way up at number 1, 146, by the way, in this span, expected points. That's almost 30 a game. That is insane. But the next closest is Jonathan Taylor, 99.5. And again, this is weeks 3 through 7, so 2 weeks removed from this time, but it's the appropriate sample for Judkins. Scattaboo at the time, 92. Javonte, 90.7. Etienne, 79. And then you start to drop under 80, the 70 to 80 range, and look who we have. We have Etienne, Kyron, Gibbs, and Judkins right here. He is firmly with these well-regarded RB1s. You see Josh Jacobs and Bijan Robinson here under Judkins. They actually only had 4 games in this sample size, so we're going to move them ahead. And when you do that, you have CMC, Taylor, Scattaboo, Williams. That's 4. Etienne, Williams, Kyron, and Gibbs, 3 more. That's 7. Jacobs and Robinson, 8, 9, and then you have Judkins, 10. So he is in that sample size, performing or in this workload, getting the type of work as an RB1, low-end RB1, and he's having these 50-yard touchdowns against the Vikings called back. The schedule's perfect. Rookies get better out of the bye. I really believe he finishes kind of as a high-end RB1. Honestly, he has top 3 ceiling rest of season at the position. We look at the rest of season rankings, and let's just go ahead and update them. Update them with me, okay? CMC, Taylor, Robinson, Gibbs, clear top 4. Then we get into these low-end RB1s, and I have a feeling he's going to be kind of put into here. So we have Etienne, Cook, Javonte, Josh Jacobs, Genty, Barkley, and yes, we're going to extend this. We're going to extend this tier a little bit. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, let's just put it down here. Okay, for now, we'll do some reorg. I want Judkins up here. I want Judkins at 11, and I want Rico at 12. Henry will remain at 13. I'm not that sold right now on Derrick Henry. We'll put the tier there. So 14 will be Bucky, Kyren, Swift, Brees, high-end RB2s. I really need to see what Bucky does when he comes back. I'm a little concerned about all the injury stuff, but again, full practice, 65+% of snaps, he's going to skyrocket right back into this top 10. We just need to wait a sec, in my opinion. We'll move this tier down, kind of include these RB2s with, weekly RB1 ceiling. I do think Etienne's in there, Jalen Warren, Chase Brown, and we'll cut the tier there. That's kind of what it's looking like for me right now. So I have Judkins here as RB11, which means players behind him in my rankings, I would send away for Judkins in some type of deal. Rico is one of them. I think you can get Judkins plus for Rico. A lot of people consider Rico better. Maybe he is. Again, here they are back-to-back in my rankings as RB1s. I would send Henry. I would send Bucky. I would send Kyren, Swift, Hall, Etienne, Warren, Brown. You guys get the point in any sort of deal. Okay? Let us move on to, speaking of Chase Brown, let's speak more about Chase Brown. Now, we had Samaje Perine leave the game, unfortunately. Okay? But Chase Brown, as you guys can see, an absurd 96% of snaps, 14 targets. We look at the expected points here for week 9, just this last week. And these are kind of some more shorter term. We're going to capitalize on the short term week 9, quote, failures, if you will, or missed out points. Chase Brown expected over 30 points this game and only scored 19.2 in PPR. And another guy that might make the list today is Etienne. As you can see, 26.6, second most expected points. But Chase Brown, the only running back in week 9 with over 30 expected points. Even if Perine comes back and continues to do his thing, play 40, 35% of snaps. Chase Brown in this Joe Flacco offense, very good asset, very strong RB2 to have, has the bye week, and I think he's just going to be an easy buy. We look all the way since week 4, only one game under 10 fantasy points. He had 8.9 in week 6. Every other game over 10. The last 3 over 12. The last 2 over 19 in PPR. So there really is a lot to like. There really is. I think, too, if we kind of change, just look at the opportunity share and we go to team opportunities, I imagine he'll be at the top. So let's just see. In week 9, where is he? Yeah, he is 7th most among running backs of team opportunities. He had 42% of the team's opportunities. So almost half of the chances, rushes and targets went to Chase Brown. 25 total opportunities, 14 targets, guys. Like, that's a ceiling that is pretty crazy. I understand it's not going to happen every week, but just the fact that that's a possibility is pretty awesome. Only guys with a higher opportunity share: McCaffrey, Dowdle, Cook, Robinson, Monungai, and Etienne. All right? And I think he was tied with Etienne. We'll move on now to Travis Etienne, and it's just a lot of the same reasons. Not as good as Chase Brown, in my opinion, but just a lot of the same reasons. Etienne's right here, top 10 among running backs in total opportunity share at 36% right here. The guys ahead of him, okay? Josh Jacobs, Henry, Chase Brown, we just mentioned, Etienne, Monungai, Robinson, Cook, Dowdle, and McCaffrey. So he's getting more of the team's opportunities than Kyren Williams, Tre'Von Henderson, Ashton Genty, Jalen Warren, Pollard, Dobbins, Monty. So it's a good place to be. Let's look at the expected fantasy points. We kind of called them out a little bit before, but one of 3 running backs with over 25 expected fantasy points in week 9. CMC, Etienne, and Chase Brown. This is a good company to be in. A guy with 14 targets, okay, and Christian McCaffrey. We look at why. Well, season high in usage, 27 total opportunities, 22 of them were rushes, caught all 5 of his targets. Vegas has a good, tough run defense. Honestly, you can score on them. He was down at the 1 yard line 5 times. It should have been a much, much bigger day. And this is where you get the -10 fantasy points over expected. Okay? Let's move on now. I do think he is, a firm RB2, and we'll kind of go ahead and rank Etienne and Chase Brown real quick. You saw where they were. I'm going to move Chase Brown 1 spot ahead just because I love what I'm seeing out of Flacco. I prefer both of these guys, Brown and Etienne, to Jalen Warren, Hampton, Vidal, Henderson, Monty, Tracy, Kamara, Walker, Sharp, all those types of players. Would I trade Brees for Chase Brown and or Etienne plus? Yes, I would. So I do prefer 1-to-1 Brees, right? But if you're giving me Brown plus for Hall or Etienne plus for Hall, I'm doing it. If you're giving me Brown plus for Swift, Etienne plus for Swift, I'm doing it. Kyren, probably not. I do think Kyren is a bit clear just a bit clear. And with that being said, we might want to move this kind of here, right? Kind of have this 5 through 15, and then maybe we do this. Okay, we kind of add Etienne and Cook to this upper tier. In fact, we could even make like a little sub tier. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Hold on. Let's just get this right, because I view this top 4 very clear. And then I kind of view, yeah, I want that. I want a top 10. I want a top 4 and a top 10. Judkins, I think he's an RB1, a low-end RB1. Would I prefer Saquon or Judkins in my lineup? Yeah, it's going to be Saquon. So we're just kind of readjusting this tier. Judkins at 11, 12, Rico. And then, let's see. I think I'm going to leave it just like that. Kind of 11 through 20 right here. So he isn't in tier with most RB2s. Judkins is, but again, low-end RB1. All right, let's move on now. Next up, we will go to the wide receiver category, and we will look at Troy Franklin, who, now this is pretty crazy, but he basically has replaced Courtland Sutton here in terms of utilization. It's one of the most nuts things I've ever seen. Let's just go to the again, weekly projection. Let's see, tools. We're on RotoViz here, the best in the business. They literally don't pay me to say that. They're just awesome. All right, we will go now to Monday review, kind of just a recap of all the stats. Let's just set this to week 6. Let's do week 7. Yeah. You know what? Let's do week 4. Let's just see. Since week 4, how are they comparing? All right. So Sutton, since week 4, here he is. Okay. Let's take a look. First, we will look at, I want to look at total targets. 41 total targets, 19% share. For Franklin, 45 total targets, 21% share. All right. Let's look at touchdowns. 3 touchdowns. 676 air yards, by the way, for Franklin in this span. 3 touchdowns for Franklin. And then for Sutton, I believe he has more. Let's take a look. 2. Only 2. Very interesting. Is that true? I feel like he has more. So hold on. Since week 4. Yeah, only 2 since week 4. Got in last week and then in week 4, of course. So when we go back to Franklin now, let's just look at him among all wide receivers in this span, okay? Franklin here. Let's get rid of Sutton. I want to go to air yards. All right. Air yards. Only Alec Pierce has more since week 4. Jamar Chase has less than Troy Franklin. George Pickens has less. JSN, Ibuka, Higgins, Waddle, Olave, Jefferson, Drake London. All these guys have less air yards, okay, than Courtland Sutton. Marvin Mims, banged up. Didn't practice Monday. They play Thursday. If Mims is out, I mean, Franklin is like a borderline must start. Look at these numbers. 8+ targets in all 3 of the last 3 games. 10 targets in 2 of them. It's out of control. We'll look at the expected points. We'll change this to running backs. Okay. We'll change this to wide receivers. Let's go week 7 through 9, and we'll go to expected points. Lo and behold, Troy Franklin is the 3rd best wide receiver in terms of expected points. Insane. Only Jamar and Rashee are better. He's better than Ladd, JJ, Pittman, Shaheed, Pierce, Dubs, London, all of these players. My point is, am I saying he is the top 3 receiver rest of season? No. Am I saying he's top 12? No. Am I saying he's top 24? Maybe. I mean, maybe. Certainly, he's being valued at most as a flex. Certainly. So you can go trade flexes for Troy Franklin and kind of value him as a wide receiver too. I would do so. We move on now. It's going to be a little less technical here with these next 2 players. And they really remind me of each other. Rome Odunze and Nico Collins. Now, let's look at the expected points just from this last week. Nico coming off of the concussion, and here he is, 5th. 17.8 expected fantasy points. If we go to over expected, he is negative, so he did not capitalize on those opportunities as much as he should have. Top 15, quote, worst among all wide receivers, but again, 5th best wide receiver in terms of usage. Love that. Looking at rest of season rankings, where do I have Nico? Where do I have Rome? And again, they're back-to-back. Rome is not a technical case. 3 targets, didn't catch any of them. 1, if not 2, were in the end zone. So he really burned people. He's been burning people since week 6, technically since week 5, since he's been on the bye. But Rome is, I just really believe in the offense. I believe in Caleb. 2 nice matchups coming up here. The Giants and then Minnesota. Even though Minnesota's tough, we look at week 1, 9 targets, got in the end zone, okay? I view him as top 15 wide receiver. Looking at the rest of season rankings for me, let's just put it to the test with these 2 guys, all right? I think you can buy Rome and Nico for wide receiver 2 price, and I think they're low-end ones. Obviously, Puka, JSN, Jamar, Rasheed, St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Jefferson, right? Abuka, Adams. Now, beginning at number 10, it starts to get interesting. Drake London, I'm going to leave him at number 10. A.J. Brown, Rome Odunze, Michael Pittman, Nico Collins, George Pickens. This area, top 15, you can kind of order them any way you want, honestly. This top 8 through 18 here, Abuka, Adams, London, Brown, Odunze, Pittman, Nico, Pickens, McConkey, Wilson, Waddle. Any given week, one of them can outscore each other. I prefer all the time this top 7 over anyone in this tier, okay? But these are some moves that I would be making. I'd send Pickens for either one of these guys. I'd send McConkey for either one of these guys. I'd send Garrett. I'd send Waddle. I'd send Sutton, Olave, McMillan, Flowers, Metcalf. I'd send those guys for either one, Rome or Nico. And you see who I prefer right here. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. Again, kind of a slow week 9 here, a bit, for Tyler Warren. Second most expected fantasy points, 16.4, but minus 8.8 over expected. That is worst among all tight ends. And that's probably because these 2 targets he didn't catch were in the red zone. Were in the end zone for potential touchdowns. His lowest yards of the season in 26, but still 7 targets. So you just must be buying low on Tyler Warren. We've seen Bowers and McBride kind of emerge here as the best 2 tight ends over the back half of the season. Duh. I will save the rant on that. If you want to see like a 6-minute Bowers rant, watch the most recent video on the channel before this one. Anyway, but yes, Tyler Warren, top 3, top 4 tight end rest of season. And basically what we need to be doing at the tight end position is if you don't have Bowers, if you don't have McBride, you need to be climbing the ladder at tight end. And we will talk about, I have a couple tight end sells, but every time you can trade away a tight end for one that is slightly better rest of season. Okay, let's just go to the rest of season rankings. You need to climb the ladder and attain one of these 2 players, Bowers or McBride. If you don't, and you don't have Warren, Kittle, Ferg, or Gadsden, you need to quit your job and locate for your roster Gadsden, Ferguson, Kittle, or Warren. If you can't do that, you need to locate for your team LaPorta, Kelsey, Kincaid, those 3. And then you need to trade them with someone else for Gadsden, Ferg, Kittle, Warren. And then you need to do it again for Bowers or McBride. That's what I love to do. And seriously, if you don't have one of these top 6 guys, you need one of these top 6. I really think it's a key to winning fantasy. Because all of a sudden, your wide receiver 2, now you can put a high-end flex in a good matchup in your wide receiver 2 because your anchor tight end is technically your wide receiver 2. It's how I've always played fantasy, and it really works for me. All right, but anyway, Tyler Warren, top 3. Here he is, rest of season for me. And after he drops his worst game, okay, since week 3, hasn't even had his rookie bye yet, I'm all in on him. There's a lot of talk about Loveland, blah, blah. Love Loveland, my tight end 11, but Warren really need to make a move for Warren. Okay, let's move on. Couple QBs here. Some surprising names. First is Jordan Love, and I think we can just go to the rest of season rankings and take a look. Let me look at strength of schedule. Yeah, 4th best strength of schedule here for Jordan Love. You have Philly, the Giants, Vikings, Lions, Bears, at Denver, and then at Chicago, then Baltimore in the final. So it's a pretty good schedule, some tough games in there. Still throwing the ball a lot, over 35 pass attempts in back-to-back games. And where am I? Rest of season rankings, clear top 4. Okay, I don't have him top 12, but I have him with Joe Flacco, Jared Goff, in that tier. And the next guy, Trevor Lawrence, I do as well. So this is more of a super flex discussion. If you can get one of these guys at your QB2, I really like that. Trevor Lawrence has a bad schedule, but if we look at the total points scored since week 5, he's actually QB 11. So he has been a QB1, 27 points versus Kansas City, 19 versus Seattle, 17, even though they got crushed versus the Rams in London, right? And then against Vegas, 22.2. He's running. He had 9 carries here. He had 7 carries in week 4, 10 in week 5. So I think there's a lot to like with Lawrence. They brought in Myers. It should be a nice, safe target. I think he's a good QB2 in Superflex rest of season. This week at Houston sucks. Like, I'm not looking forward to it at all. And Myers won't be fully ready. But after that, Chargers, Cardinals, Tennessee, Indy, Jets, Denver, Indy again. 2 matchups in there that I don't like really. So I do like Lawrence. Okay, one more guy, JJ McCarthy. And this is because I just don't think people believe yet. But if we look at the schedule here, tied for best schedule rest of season. Baltimore, Chicago, Green Bay, Seattle, Washington, Dallas, Giants, and Detroit. And ran the ball 9 times. Got in the end zone. Threw the ball 25 times, so 35 opportunities at the QB position. 19 points, approaching 20 points. Again, not going to put up huge numbers through the air. 143 yards. Second time he's hit that number, and then 158 in week 2. So don't expect, 400 yards. But you have JJ, you have Addison, you have Hawkinson, you have Aaron Jones, you have Kevin O'Connell. It reminds me a lot of why Brock Purdy, like, for example, when he first started his career, was successful and good for fantasy. Okay, so JJ McCarthy in Superflex, kind of in that QB3 territory, but I actually think is a QB2 for fantasy purposes. All right, moving on to some sells. Don't have too many. Javonte is a guy who I'm looking potentially to move off of. In my own league, I actually just traded Javonte for Quinshon Judkins, somewhat straight up. Javonte has the bye this week. I have 4 wins in that one league because I've been waiting on Bowers. Team's good, but need a win right now. So it was like, okay, take Jav, send me Judkins. They're pretty comparable rest of season, and I need Judkins this week. Okay, so let's look at rest of season and why and where I'd be putting Javonte. Javonte has been getting it done. He's averaging over a touchdown per game, or I think it's actually 1 touchdown per game this season. He did not score versus Arizona. He fumbled the ball. Who cares? I don't really care. Still, 5.5 a carry. That's awesome. 15 carries. Cool. 1 target. Not great. And that's kind of my first point. If they're not winning, if they don't have these scoring opportunities, like the offense didn't look good last night. For a while, I didn't think that was possible, but it's been touchdown reliant for Javonte for sure. We've seen a couple games here, 7+ targets in week 2. Again, in week 6, he had 8. We've seen a couple games here where it's like, wow, this is really a full, complete running back utilization in the passing game, everything. But last 2 games, 2 targets, then 1 target. That's his 3rd game with 2 or less targets this season out of 9. So he's somewhere in the middle most of the time. 2 of those games, like I said, he's had a lot. I just like, it's all over the place with the receiving. It's no problem. And by the way, I'm nitpicking right now. As you can see, he's my RB7 rest of season. I am nitpicking. Honestly, probably moving Jacobs ahead of him. He's my RB8. And I might move Genty. But again, Javonte, Genty, Saquon, he's in that tier. But last night, we saw the offense is not invincible. And I previously thought it was. So, the Carolina game, when he had 8 points, I threw it out kind of because of the 8 targets. That was awesome. But yeah, it's just not an invincible offense. Still an RB1, but on the bye this week, we look at the schedule. All right, rest of season, not very good. I imagine, bottom 6 here, 1, 2, 3, bottom 7, and it's tough. We talked about Vegas. I don't worry too much about Vegas. Philly, I don't love. Kansas City, I don't love. Detroit, I don't love. Minnesota, easy. Chargers, mid. Washington, easy, right? So you definitely have some easy matchups like at Washington in the finals. That's going to be pretty sweet. But again, if we can move off Javonte for, Jacobs, Cook, Etienne, and some sort of deal where it's Javonte plus, things like that. Maybe you get Etienne plus, Genty plus back, Barkley plus, Judkins plus, maybe Judkins straight if you need a win like me. Now I have Judkins in my lineup versus the Jets with no Quinshon Williams, something like that. All right, he's my only running back sell. T. Higgins is the first wide receiver sell. Only because it's like kind of, it's not like a hard sell, but it's definitely, I'm looking to move it. He's now with Flacco in the like Devonta Smith tier and Jordan Addison tier where we see massive games. It could be the biggest of the big for these players. And that's cool. I want that player in my flex. I don't want T. Higgins to be my wide receiver 2. I need consistency in the wide receiver 2. With that said, in the Flacco offense, 8+ targets in 3 of the last 4 games. And again, like Some of these players are good players, right? Javonte is a top 10 running back. Higgins is a top 30 receiver, and that's being shy on it. So if you're like listening and you're like, no way, cool, no big deal. Just enjoy T. Higgins, bro, and his 8 targets per game. But you're going to get some games like in week 8, where the offense put up 90 points versus the Jets, where he has 2 targets, 1 catch. Now, it was for a tutty. That's awesome. I probably would have told you to sell high, and you would have watched him, 9 targets, 7 catches, 2 touchdowns against the Bears. My point is, I want this player in my flex, because with my flex, I'm like, all right, he might go crazy. Like, he could win me the week. If he doesn't go crazy, if he has a week 8, even though that was still a good game, but say he just catches 2 passes for 40 yards. It's cool because my wide receiver 2 has a safe floor. So does my 1. My 1 is JSN. My 2 is Cortland Sutton. And then we have Higgins in the flex. Like, that's a setup I like. In fact, I would actually go try and trade for Higgins. If you're a winning team on his bye week, put him in your flex. But if he's your wide receiver 2, I'm looking to move things around. Where do I have him rest of season? Right here at wide receiver 24. I prefer DK, Flowers, McMillan still. Yes. Olave, Sutton. These are players I prefer. Who would I trade away to get T. Higgins? We'll do the other side. I prefer Higgins to Diggs, Allen, Brian Thomas, Addison, QJ. Names like that. Moving right along here, we have a couple more names. Drake London. This one's not that deep. He is a wide receiver 1. He is a top 12 wide receiver. You see him right here as my wide receiver 10 rest of season. He is not in this tier. He is not Puka, JSN, Jamar, Rashee, Amon-Ra, Lamb, or Jefferson. He's not. He's simply not, because you have games like week 7 where he catches 4 of 10 targets. Darnell Mooney has like 8 as well. And Michael Penix looks like a JV quarterback. But then you have games like at New England, where I was at that game. We talked about it in the video. And he's unguardable. And everyone in the stadium knows he's getting the ball. And no one can do anything about it. We have those games too. But he's not up here. See, these guys, 1 through 7, they're untouchable. You have them on your roster. They aren't going anywhere. London, I'm looking to move London for one of these players, strictly. Adams, Ibuka, AJ Brown, Odunze, like whatever, it's the same thing. I want Puka, JSN, Jamar, Rice, St. Brown, Lamb, Jefferson. I want them for London in some sort of deal. You can definitely send London right now for Jefferson. You can probably send London plus for Lamb, for St. Brown. Maybe not Rice and Chase. Maybe not Puka, JSN, but you get what I'm saying. That's all. Okay, word. This one's easy. He's also kind of in that Devonta Smith, Jordan Addison, T. Higgins, like, I don't want to say tier because I prefer all those guys to this player, but vibe is what I'll say, because it's a bit of a roller coaster with DJ Moore. Easily his best game of the season. But again, only 6 targets, only 4 passes caught. That is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games with 4 or less passes. He only has 1 game this year with 5 or more passes caught, receptions. He rushed for a touchdown. He threw a touchdown. I think he did not catch a touchdown. That's cool. But we need to be trading DJ Moore off this massive game for kind of flexes rest of season. I mean, he's all the way down here. This is not updated, but let's just say, he's probably around wide receiver 38, wide receiver 40 rest of season. Obviously, you have to move Ridley and maybe some other guys around, but yeah, I prefer Myers, Smith, McLaurin. Yeah, like McLaurin even, because when McLaurin comes back, like, he might be really good. It might be in a month, but I might be in playoffs and I might need him. Debo, Worthy, Marvin, Pearsall, all those names to DJ Moore. Moving along, we have 2 tight ends to talk about, and it's kind of what I touched on it before, but this week, okay, the way you're going to work yourself into this tier of tight ends, Warren, Kittle, Ferg, and Gadsden, the way we're going to get into that tier is by getting rid of LaPorta and Kincaid. LaPorta, monster game, 6 catches, 97 yards, got in the end zone, making insane plays. Cool. Very different than week 7 with 3 targets for 15 yards and 4.5 points. We have Kincaid, who when he's healthy is awesome, but not always healthy. He misses week 6. 2 weeks to get healthy, has the bye week. Week 8, 3 targets, 1 catch, 3 points. Yesterday, caught all 6 targets, 101 yards, touchdown. Awesome. Get him off your team. Do me a favor. Kincaid, LaPorta, get them off your team for Gadsden, Ferguson, Kittle, and Warren. Those 4. Then, when one of them erupts, okay, and Brock Bowers only catches 5 of his 19 targets and only scores 9.6 points one week, now you're knocking on the door. With Warren, Kittle, Ferguson, Gadsden, plus a wide receiver 2, now you have Bowers, McBride. Your team is overpowered. Those are my thoughts, guys, heading into week 10. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Peace.